Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Best of the Best Businesses in Central Mass. I'm your host, Siobhan Weber with Castanetti Realty Group. Joining me today is Kevin Notch with Bushido Martial Arts and Mati Alcantara, also with Castanetti Realty. Thank you for joining us today, guys.
Thank you.
So Kevin has a bit of an interesting business story. You want to tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Sure. I got started actually because my son had difficulty going on a mat in 2012. He would have been 6 years old. And I was at that time in the corporate world and spent a fair amount of time shuttling him back and forth to classes. And I decided to start, I guess, from that day forward. So the rest is history. I jumped into this full time and I'm teaching reality-based self-defense for hospital teams, realty groups, private lessons, and I run 2 martial arts schools in the area.
Wow. All right. And are you an instructor, or you manage the business side, or both?
Both.
Both?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So has this been a lifelong passion of yours then, that you've been a martial artist, or you came to it as just when your son did?
I came to it just when my son did, so I would have
Okay.
been 33 years old at the time.
All right. Never too late, folks. Always, time to try new things, especially from us coming from corporate to new opportunities, which I think is all of us actually at this table. So that's pretty fun. Where are your studios located, actually?
So our main studio is in Smithfield, Rhode Island, and our secondary studio is in East Greenwich, Rhode Island.
Okay, great. And when you do private lessons, it's at one of those 2 studios?
It's in the studios. There's also just in private homes, offices, corporations. I'm all over really the region.
All right. And so the region for you would be maybe, up to where in Massachusetts?
Typically all of New England down to New York.
Okay, great. And now reality-based defense, is that what you called it?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds fancy. I want to know what that is.
So, martial arts has a lot of benefits to families, to children, to adults. This is more focused on how do you defend yourself, to get home safe, to get out of a situation. So martial arts and self-defense don't always intersect. There's values within martial arts where reality-based self-defense is more for adults that have limited time to train and or in high risk, positions.
Okay, yeah. And so some of those high risk professions, I think we are very familiar with, one being real estate, right? So coming up in September, it's Realtor Safety Month. I know we'll be celebrating here at our office. We have, quite a few agents. We're promoting ourselves and where we're going to be, right, Mati?
That's right.
And so, we want to always be safe and protected. So what are your thoughts on realtor safety specifically, and, how to kind of make that a focus in the upcoming month?
So, realtors are 40% more likely to have an incident where there's violence involved. And realtors are often meeting with clients alone, sometimes in areas that may have higher crime rates.
Mm-hmm.
So, we like to focus on the prevention and the awareness piece, as well as the physical piece of it.
All right, sounds good. And so what might, I don't want, the secret sauce or anything, we're not giving away business, protected business secrets, but what might it look like if you were to, I think Andrea had mentioned that she'd love to have you come in and meet
Right.
with our group. What might we expect in a session like that?
So the moves are very simple, easy to learn. They're based on conceptual moves as opposed to fine motor skills. And it's based on Israeli Krav Maga, which is a very short-term, short learning cycle for the moves.
Well, it certainly sounds impressive. I would like to say that I know Israeli Krav Maga. I mean, put that on my bucket list and eventual resume. I love it. When you mention conceptual versus fine motor, can you talk more about the differences?
Yes, so if there's an incident where there's a physical altercation about to take place, you typically lose 70% of your skill set because of the adrenaline dump in your body. So you're not able to do things like grabbing a weapon, grabbing a wrist. You're more likely to be able to use a knee, a headbutt, an elbow, as opposed to a fine motor skill.
Okay.
Motor skills have to be trained many thousands of times to become natural.
Hence the repetitions and the drills in martial
Right.
arts, which
Correct.
is very focused on the repetition of movement, so
That's
it
right.
becomes muscle memory, right? Now, with this crossover between self-defense and martial art, do you find those with a martial arts background, maybe it's not 70% of their set they lose, maybe they lose less?
It depends on the training. If the training is reality based and that it's pressure tested, with a partner, sometimes it's less than that. But the challenge is the adrenaline. We're all going to freeze, or we're going to run, or we're going to fight. So we don't really know the answer to that until it happens.
Right. Okay. So with that in mind, then I guess the real question is: do you dress up in a suit and let us beat you up? Or we get to do, because we could schedule September 1st, right? That sounds like fun.
I'll be here.
I'm willing to do that.
Okay, great. Full service shop. I love it. But so what would that look like, though? So we would meet, probably our office isn't the place to do that, right? So we would find an appropriate space, and then maybe some instruction followed by some practice, or?
Yeah, so some basic instruction on common attacks, and then we would work with partners. And pressure tested over time as the skill base became, even in one session, your skill base is going to increase. Then we're going to start working on repetition.
Okay, all right. So it's not, like anything, right? It's not a one and done. This is just a shorter course to having some practical defense knowledge.
And it's based upon the natural responses of the body. For instance, if I were to throw a volleyball at your head, your hands would come up. And that's where we start.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Lean into what your body's going to naturally do anyway. Okay. So real estate is on the list, but what are some other, industry professionals out in the world who might benefit from your services?
Well, I'm currently training the Newport Hospital security team in a train-the-trainer arrangement. So they're training actually all of the other security officers in suspect interdiction. We do weapons training for police departments. And then we teach 4 and 5-year-olds, simpler versions of how to get out of something, how to look for help. So a lot of it's situational awareness, right? That's a big piece of it.
Yes, I need that. My husband's always like, did you not see the thing? I'm like, I know, I'm in my lane. I'm doing what I do. Awesome. Right. So those of us who have had a career switch, like how we all have, there's usually like one or two kind of like, oh, didn't know that, surprising facts, on your journey to where you are now. Have you had anything that kind of took you aback and made you?
Yes. In fact, I started this journey full time about 1.5 years ago. And I'm surprised the amount of people whose strategy is to not think about what could happen versus finding opportunities to increase their skill set.
I'm right here.
So that's very common. People are afraid to think about it, so I won't do anything about it.
Right.
I want to attract it to my experience.
Right. Putting it in the universe, right? But it is, I can imagine it's a vicious, I just raised my hand, right? It's a vicious cycle. You start to think about it, and then you're like, well, I don't know what I could even do about it. And then you sort of shut down, right? Like, I don't know where to go from here, so I'm going to move on to something I do know how to do.
That's right.
Which is sell real estate, right? But I didn't know, my eyebrows raised, 40% more likely to have, it makes sense, right? So, hospital, police professionals, real estate, all folks who could be in the market, or as you said, just to visit the studios or do private lessons, really, you are a one-stop security shop.
Absolutely.
All right, I love that. Is there anything else you'd want our audience to know about you personally, or the business, or...
I would say if you carry insurance on your house, you carry insurance on your automobile, you already have the mindset that something could happen. So this is just insurance for yourself and your family.
Right. And there's, aside from time, your health is really the only other resource that, you have to manage that carefully. So we'll have the information for the studios at the bottom of the screen. Call, visit the website, and find out more about what Kevin and his awesome business can do for you. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Siobhan Weber, and we'll see you next time at Best of the Best of Central Mass.